See them on
I like that. I don't bite.
on the committee.
Oh,
No, I'm not on here.
No.
yoga.
I'll excuse myself. Just give me a minute.
You're yoga. You're
Take me a
yoga.
minute.
You are live.
Good morning, everyone. And welcome to the November 21st meeting of the Human Services Committee. Let me take the opportunity to, this will be the last meeting of this committee, unless we have to do something special, but the last meeting of this committee, I want to thank each member, including those who weren't able to make it here today, for their participation and involvement. And we got a lot accomplished, and we have a lot to accomplish today. I've called the meeting to order. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the committee meeting from the prior meeting? Supervisor McGowan, do I have a second? Supervisor McDevitt, all in favor of approval of the minutes from the October meeting? Say aye.
Aye.
Any dissensions? Okay, so moved. What we will do, as we've done in the past, we will do countryside first. We have Mr. Mike Bray here from the Youth Bureau. I'll put him on second, and then we'll go to the social services report. So good morning, Amy.
Good morning.
If you could just help us run through, I think you've got a number of requests. I think most of them, well, number one request, if you could just read that and give us the rationale, please.
Sure. I'd like authorization to renew our ESAL membership at $13.44 annually. The price hasn't increased. This membership entitles training at a discounted price, and we are mandated to have 60 credit hours every cycle. They also help with complex compliance issues as well as interpretation of regulation. So they've been a great resource.
Great, thanks. A motion to bring that to the floor, please. Supervisor Seaver and Supervisor McDevitt on the second. Any discussion? Questions? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Request number two, please, Amy.
It's a couple requests to transfer funds. We need to move money from unemployment 60/30/850 into overtime in the amount of $7,000, as well as moving from part-time 120 into overtime in the amount of 5,000. Overtime's just up. There's just nothing that I can do about it, as much as the staff will flex, as much as we all try to pull our share to keep it down. It just continually is there. And then the last part of that is that we need to move money into disability from part-time salaries of just $500.
Okay. Supervisor McGowan on the motion and a second. Supervisor McDevitt, and please note that Amy always includes an overtime report in her packet. Let me call the question. Discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just was the exit interview offered and completed for this resignation?
Yes.
Okay, and nothing that the board needs to, I know one of those questions is anything you'd like to share with the Board of Supervisors? Any feedback for us?
No, I mean, the resignations that I have had is because it was a personal reason that she couldn't work the shift.
No. Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. McGowan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Amy, really, thank you. I know the overtime. I know what it's like out there. I mean, I've worked for myself for 40 years, and I just lost my right-hand man, and you know, to find someone that it's exhausting. And talk about overtime, I know the feeling, so
It's a totally different environment than it used to be. Yeah.
it is. But really, for your efforts and keeping up with the care of our elderly up there, I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? We've got a motion and a second on the floor. Could I call the question? All in favor of approval of request number 2, say aye.
All right.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you. Request number 3, please, Amy.
This is just to amend our county budget in a good way. We did receive our equal. It's only $26,987, but every little bit helps. $13,493 is actually specifically for the residents to enhance their quality of life. The other part of that, the other half of that is a capital part. So the items, as you can see in the packet that I requested, were furniture. Since we're doing the renovation to the building, I figured whatever little bit we could use would help. So just like to amend the county budget and get that into 410 supplies and 210 furniture.
Thank you. Motion to bring that to the floor, Supervisor McGowan. Supervisor McDevitt on the second. Questions or discussion? All in favor of approval, say aye.
All right.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you. Are we able to batch 4, 5, 6, and 7, which are bills for institutional aids together? Is any objection to that? Maybe 8 too. Okay. So a motion to bring 4, 5, 6, and 7 to the floor, and Supervisor McGowan on the second. Discussions or questions on any or all of those? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of approval of request number 3, 4, 5, and 6, say aye, please.
All right.
I'm sorry, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Thank you. 4, 5, 6, and 7. Clear on that? Okay. All in favor? We've already said, okay. So moved. We're on to request number 8, which is a clerk position. If you could just discuss that, please.
Well, as I come to committee each and every month and saying, you know, I need cooks, I think we have finally found someone that's going to fit the bill. She's doing terrific, so we need to be able to get this notice of intent filled, so.
Motion by Supervisor McGowan. Second on that, please. Supervisor McDevitt. I'll call the question. It's all in favor?
Aye.
That's number 8 is done. Any discussion items or anything else that you'd like to share with us, Amy?
Well,
Wanna
actually,
go over you.
oh, I'm sorry, I mean, to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I should have mentioned to Supervisor Siebert that person that gave us the resignation is actually staying on in a per diem position. She just isn't able to work that shift anymore, so. But she didn't have any issues with it, so.
And again, you all should have the overtime report and the census report. Does anyone have any questions about either of those 2 reports? We're good.
I would like to mention with the census being 29, we are able to keep all of the residents at the facility and not relocate them during the renovation.
Great.
So it's, even though it looks like, wow, the numbers are down, it's actually a really good thing. And then the overtime is the overtime.
Supervisor Seaver.
Well, I think Supervisor McGowan was before me. Do you mind if I ask a question, quick, Supervisor McGowan?
All ladies before gentlemen.
No need, thank you. I'll wait my fair turn. Just as it relates to filling, or that's great news, but I know some ARPA dollars were transferred over to assist with that relocation. Were those all expended, or is there still a balance?
And nothing has been spent, so it's all there.
Do you anticipate that? I mean, we're trying to capitalize as much as we can on any ARPA dollars for community applications, and now there's additional requests for EMS and other.
Well, the way the approval came from the Department of Health is we have to keep it in place in case some of our private room residents are unable to share a room. When they were admitted to the facility, they were given.
I'm just gonna shut this. I know. Supervisor Thomas had a hard time hearing, and I'm having a tough time up here.
When they were admitted to the facility, they were admitted for a private room. Since we are unable to offer it at the facility, we had to have a relocation plan. So even though they've all agreed to stay and double up, we need to keep a plan in place just in case they say to me, 3 months from now, I tried, I did my best. I want my private room. So we are able to relocate them. Do I think we're going to have to use as much money as we put aside of what we originally planned on? I don't think so.
Okay, so those ARPA dollars, then that discussion can happen. If there's a balance, you would know by the end of this year.
I don't know if I'd know at the end, like December 31st, we still haven't had complete approval from DOH, so we haven't initiated the project yet. I would say early 23, we should have an answer.
Anything else for Amy?
Well,
Oh, good.
yeah, I was just gonna ask, I hadn't heard anything. I think we were just finalizing and doing all the walkthroughs and that and finalizing the plan on the start.
Well, it's in DOH's hands, so it's broken up into different categories. So they have approved or set resident safety plan. That's all set. But the financial side of it, they haven't completely. They wanted more documentation. They have it. That will probably come. I don't anticipate that being a problem. We're waiting for the architectural end of it. They wanted more information last week, which we sent to them. Fire rating doors, or where are we moving this door? Where do you foresee temporary walls being put up? The abatement is slated to start next Monday, but only if we have approval.
I know the frustrations.
Life conditions are tough. The abatement's going to be I think probably the toughest part of this.
Anything else? Thanks very much. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful-
Have a nice day. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Amy. You too. We'll move on to Mr. Gray. Welcome, Mike. You have one request before us and a couple of discussion items. If you could just run us through the request number one, please.
So, Chairman, good morning, everyone. First, I'd like to ask the committee to approve and appoint Jack Sweet to the Warren County Youth Board. Jack is a junior at Glens Falls High School. He's very active in his community. He founded Pennies for Pink Foundation, was raised over $30,000 for Glens Falls Hospital Foundation. He's also a member of the varsity soccer team, and just a all-around young man. I met with him. He understands the obligations, and if appointed, I don't have any doubt that he'll live up to them.
Motion to bring that to the floor, please. Supervisor McGowan, thank you. Supervisor McDevitt on the second. Questions or discussion? We'll call the motion. I will call the question. All in favor of approval? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. You have a couple of discussion items, please.
Yeah, just updates for the committee. Next year, Office for Children and Family Services is changing the program year for the youth development program funding. Currently, it's on a calendar year, and starting in 2023, they're going to go to the federal year. So October 1 through September 30. So what that's going to do for 2023 for our programs that we fund from January to September, there's going to be that gap. So next year we'll be going through 2 RAPs, resource allocation process, to accomplish that. There'll be a set amount for January through September 30th, and then moving forward October 1st through September 30th. It's a good thing for, you as supervisors will know by August what you're going to have funding for the following year. Because right now we can wait till, I think last year was October before we found out what we were going to get for 2022. So this is really a good thing. It's more work as far as processing, but I like to work with Chairman Driscoll just to, and of course, the treasurer, whomever, the county administrator, whoever you see, that I've begun discussions about the possibility of being able to streamline the flow of funds. So it would be less of a burden on Warren County. You still retain control over how the funds are dispersed and allocated, but there is I think a more efficient way that I'd like to explore with the treasurer as well as administrator and of course Chair Driscoll. So I'll bring that back in January if that's all right, if we get
Yeah.
that far.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that Mr. Swan would,
absolutely.
yeah, would welcome, and the appropriate folks over in Washington County too.
Very good.
Yeah, so
Yes.
let's get that done. Yeah, Supervisor McGowan.
My only concern is this is government. That just sounds too easy and simple. And, you know, I'm crossing my fingers.
I know. It's always been an issue for me that I give you $1,000 and I ask you for $10,000 worth of paperwork. And there is a way to do it and meets the state requirements. We follow accounting principles. There's no issue and no concern over that, but there is an easier way, I think, and working together, I think we can come up with it. So.
Great, thank
Yeah.
you.
No, you're welcome. Thank you. And I just also close, I just want to say that in 8 months, we've been reaching out to all the school districts in the county, as well as community-based providers, and we've been welcomed. We've accomplished some things, Safe Sitter program. We trained 14 kids 2 weeks ago on how to become a safe sitter. And there's also, we provided programming to Glens Falls City Rec this summer with equipment and different things. We tabled at community events, but overall it's been a good 8 months, and as well as working with probation, providing community restoration program for some of their juvenile probationers. So it's been great. I very much appreciate it. So that's all I have.
Anyone else or any members of the public for a public comment period for Mike and the Youth Bureau? Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you as well. Thanks.
Warren County Department of Social Services. Both Chris and Julie here. Chris, if you could just, if we've got a dozen requests, so if you could just Supervisor Seaver.
I'm sorry, just a quick point of order. I know that it does say privilege of the floor and public comment on this agenda for social services.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah,
I just had a quick comment I wanted to make before we got too far into the agenda,
okay.
given the hour.
Sure, yeah, please.
And if we could address it perhaps at the end, that would be great. I just want to make sure we talk
Okay.
about it. There's been some emails sent back and forth. There's been some dialogue. I'm very concerned about the state of Code Blue in Warren County. And it's my understanding, and I hope that you're prepared to talk about this today. It's my understanding that, social services did a lot of hard work to try to make this happen for this year, last minute, but a significant amount of money goes into Code Blue, but putting aside the dollars, the need. And as we start to see these freezing temperatures, my concern is, what are we doing now to talk about next year? How are we, we shouldn't be back in a situation where weather turns cold and we wonder where people are going to go and how we're going to serve. County's here for those needs. And I'd like to just keep a pending item coming into this committee to talk about it now for next year. If Open Door is not going to be able to do it, and it's my understanding they've said pretty much no this year, but they'll make this exception. And what are we going to do? And maybe we need to go out for an RFP for that. Maybe there needs to be a broader discussion, but I was really caught off guard hearing about it. And I think our public should probably know about it as well. So
Good point. I know from experience, you open up a program for this year, and then the next day you begin discussions about the program for next year. It takes that long to put a lot of these things together. So,
If you don't mind.
yep,
Just on that note, especially if Code Blue cannot be at Open Door next year. It's not just a matter of getting the program up and running, it's a facility too. So I really think we need to have discussion so that the supervisors are not caught off guard on what you're intending to do with the program next year, and give us plenty of time to digest that and get the approvals through that need to be done. Cause it's gonna be here before we know it. I mean, it's less than 12 months away, and if we have to build a new facility, it's gonna be problematic.
Yep, first, Mr. McGowan.
Yeah, thank you, sure. Yeah, I was totally caught off guard because this actually is pretty much a new building that was built, and I thought the second floor was set up for code blue. And then here with the, you know, changing of the directors, all of a sudden it ended, and the huge concern. I was happy to hear at the last meeting that you got things worked out at the last minute, and really appreciate that. But yeah, really main concern, it's figuring out that and maybe what happened and why, so we can prevent this in the future.
Would you like an update right now? of
Yeah,
where
let's
we're
do it
at?
now, yeah.
Would that be helpful, Supervisor Seaver?
I think it would be helpful to the
For
public and
everyone?
everybody here.
Well, number one, I don't know the actual reasons why there was a departure of 2 directors at Open Door, so I can't speak to that. But certainly there's been a change of direction in some areas, and sometimes our missions aren't matching up because we have regulatory missions and directives that we absolutely must fulfill. And they don't necessarily have that because they're not completely dictated by outside regulations and agencies. So one of the things that we did have set up there was Code Blue last year, and it was something that they had indicated that they would like to do, but this was a prior director. After the director changes, one of the things that came up was the fact that they felt like they were losing money on Code Blue, which I have to question from a number of perspectives, but we did work out an arrangement so that we will have full Code Blue, and Code Blue is in effect right now. They also provide homeless shelter and obviously a host of other benefits to people in the community. Right now, we are looking at trying to work with Salvation Army and finding a permanent homeless and Code Blue shelter location in Warren County, which would most likely be in Glens Falls, because the type of facility we need would probably be in Glens Falls. And it would make the most sense. So we are working on this. We started before this season for next season, so we're hopefully going to have something more permanent. We've discussed some other options, perhaps looking for grants of some sort to actually purchase a building. Some counties do that. They have their own shelter. But I think we're making some ground with Salvation Army. They have obtained quite a bit of funds through various grants. And I think we'll probably be set up for next year without too many issues. We do have quite a bit of time to work this out. I'll keep the entire Board of Supervisors up to date on our progress. But I think we're fine for this year, and I wouldn't worry about too much about next year because we are working on this.
Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, thank you. That was great information. Also, the major was here from Salvation Army earlier, and he did state that he was working on that with you. So I really appreciate you being right on top of it. And the Salvation Army, you know, is a big organization. Thank you. As long as, you know, we're covered right now.
Yeah, we're required to do it, so it will get done. There's no question about that one way or another, but we're hoping to find a more permanent solution. Sometimes you can do that, sometimes you can't. Depends on what, there's a lot of different parameters, like the buildings have to have certain specifications, and you know, we have to have inspections from the state as well. So with that said, you have to find the right location, and certainly you can do some renovations, but if the renovations are too extensive and expensive, then you know, you got to look for another building. So something that we're exploring right now.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Since the Code Blue facility was built downtown there above the open
Mhm.
doors, I'm pretty sure that's where it was, for the second floor, you said.
It's been moved around. It's been on the first floor in the front there. The second floor, I believe, is going to be for homeless, but could have changed.
right.
I'm not on top of the
Well,
minutia of how
no,
they're managing
mission
things.
down there on Warren Street.
It is on Warren Street, yes.
Okay. So, and that's a pretty new facility.
Mhm.
And, so I'm sure it's been, the health department, all the departments been through it. I'm sure it was built for code.
Yes,
And since we're responsible, I mean, it's a thing that we have to partner with them or
Mhm.
something. I don't know. I mean,
so I guess, what's your question on that? I think
a question, I'm
think
just
I lost
wondering,
you.
or you stated that,
Mhm.
we're responsible for that, aren't,
Yeah, we're responsible for making sure that we have a Code Blue facility within the county, DSS is.
But we're not financially responsible.
We are financially responsible. We have funding streams that fund Code Blue each year.
Okay, so,
That's in our budget each year. We have X amount of dollars that we draw down to pay for Code Blue services.
Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you. I'll be specific with my question. I know you said you wouldn't worry, or to us, don't worry too much about it for next year. I am gonna worry about it because I remember sitting around the board when we had to address turning the old youth facility into a Code Blue shelter last minute. Because we had concerns about how we were gonna do it that year. I didn't worry about it last year because I too thought we were all set for this year until the problem came up. So I'm just asking that it be put on the agenda for February for an update. If you're talking about purchasing a building and having another department within the county, that's something I think we all need to be worried about. And if we're talking about going with Salvation Army, we're looking at them in some other contracts as well. So I still think it's something we need to be worried about and talking about. And before the season, the cold season ends this year, I hope we have a contract in place for next year. So can we get just an update
Yeah,
in
I'll
February?
bring updates to the committee meetings for sure.
Thanks, Chairman.
Yeah, and I'll go a step forward to that. I will work with Sarah to ensure that each and every month it's a pending item just for discussion. Whether or not there's anything to discuss or not, it'll be on the agenda.
Thank you.
Not
I'll
just-
be happy to bring our Deputy Commissioner Christina Mastriani as well, who works directly under over those programs. She really has been hammering out a lot of the finer details and would be much better and more equipped to talk about the minutia of the things that are going on. So
One of the things that I know she did for this year was the contract we have now, we had to pay 50% upfront because part of the problem with Open Door is that they were a nonprofit. So if we're not paying, they don't have the funds to pay their staff. So the agreement changed this year so that they would have operational funds by paying 50%. Because what would happen is by the time we would receive the bills and the backup required, I mean, you're talking a staff that would have to be reviewed by Nina. And then it would come to accounting for review, and it would go to the treasurer's office for review. And by the time they got their check, oftentimes it could be several months later. And for a nonprofit, that can present an issue. So I know Nina did work that out with Open Doors so that we did pay 50% upfront. And I think that'll make a huge difference moving forward because that was one of their main problems, was the funding being slow. I don't know if that helps.
That's understandable.
Right.
I'm going to open up the floor on this particular issue before we get to the other resolutions or the other requests. So Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you for privilege of the floor.
Yeah.
I guess one of the things that's going through my head right now is you're talking about updates and in my mind, I'm thinking we need to approve contracts, we need to get things in place for new facilities. Is this one of those weird things where you guys do your own thing and you don't need approval from the Board of Supervisors?
That will depend on if it's interagency within the county. If it's something like if we work with another agency or department within the county, we have to go through the county attorney's office to have agreements
Okay.
reviewed and approved. There are situations where I can certainly step up as the commissioner on certain agreements, but I would never do anything before bringing it to committee and discussing what it is. So
I just clicked in my mind when you talked about amending the contract with Open Door to make it 50% upfront. I don't remember us approving.
no, that's not something that I have to bring to committee.
Okay,
So,
but a new contract would say a different entity like Salvation Army you would bring to the Board of
not
Supervisors?
necessarily, not necessarily.
Okay,
It's
There,
100% funded.
yeah, it's 100% funding and it's outside of inter-county agency. So I can negotiate and fully execute a contract. with-
okay. I think that's where some of this
Salvation Army.
disconnect is happening.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Whether or not it requires our rubber stamp, I'll make sure that we at least know what's going on. So, for transparency and all those reasons. Anything else? Okay. So, in the absence, to save some time, requests number 3 through 10 are all notice of intent to fill. Is anyone interested in moving 3 through 10 forward?
Just
Yeah,
a quick
one more-
question.
yeah.
Did we actually start with request 1? Because I don't remember starting our action items.
Oh,
Would you
yeah,
like me to
I'm
start with,
sorry. Yeah, I
with
lost-
number
yeah,
1
I
and go
lost
through
my
them
place.
all?
Yeah. So let's
Because
do
we
number
didn't
1.
start
Yeah.
these yet.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
I can just run through them if that's okay. Would you like me to do that?
Do number 1 and then 2, and then we'll batch 3 through 10 together.
Okay. All right, thank you. Number 1 is a notice of intent to fill a position of assistant social services attorney. Base salary is 71,988. This was due to a resignation effective 11/18/22. Position is mandated and reimbursed, and we are currently working with civil service to post this position.
Motion to bring that to the floor, Supervisor McGowan. Supervisor McDevitt on the second. Questions or discussion? Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you.
Yeah.
May I ask a question?
Sure, yeah, go ahead, please.
Commissioner, again, I'm gonna talk about exit interviews and reasons for resignation. In this particular instance, was one done? And if so, was there any feedback that was to be provided to the Board of Supervisors?
This particular person found a better opportunity, so she moved on to a different firm. She also did get offered an exit interview and did elect to do that. I don't know if she's done that yet or not, but I got the paperwork today. So you could look forward to probably having an exit interview or the information from that exit interview from Human Resources, because she will meet with Jackie.
Okay, I'll communicate with Jackie. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't usually get those. They work directly with Human Resources.
Anything else on request number 1? Okay, I will. We have a motion.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let me backtrack. Let me do number 2 through 10 without objection. Do I have a motion to bring 2? Go ahead.
I have one thing to note here. The number 3 through 10, all those should be January 1st, 2023.
Okay,
There's a typo there. It says 2022.
okay, great. Thank you for the correction. And all of those positions are mandated and reimbursable. So a motion to bring 2 through 10 to the floor, please. Supervisor McDevitt. Supervisor McGowan on the second. And certainly take your time to look them over again. Mr. McGowan, you have a question?
Yeah, on, of course, number 2, noticing intent to fill the part-time. Is that immediately?
Yes,
So do we want to do 1 and 2 and then maybe group 3 through 10 because they're all next year?
I think that's what the chairman.
Okay, yeah, that's what we can do. Yeah, so
Backtrack.
thank you for bringing that up. I
My apologies.
the dates thoroughly enough. So we've got a motion and a second. We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion about number 2? Yep, go ahead, Supervisor Seaver.
Mine, it's not specifically on number 2, it's just all these positions that you're bringing forward, I take it they were put into the budget funded.
Yes, a number of these positions are new positions created for 2023 that were in our approved budget. That's correct.
Anyone else? So we're voting on number 2.
You made the motion for 2 through 10.
Did I? Okay,
Yes.
all right, then we'll go with 2 through 10 because that's the most one. So all in favor of approving request number 2 through 10?
Again,
Pardon me? Do you have a question?
yeah, because
Okay.
we just discussed that. The other ones don't have to be filled until the 23rd. So, and this intent to fill is more important for number 2. So I thought we were
Okay.
gonna do number 2 separately.
All right, can we
Amend the motion to.
amend
the motion.
okay, so both parties are recommending the motion to just vote on number 2, please.
Number 2.
Okay, so all in favor of approval of number 2, please.
All right.
Any opposed? Okay, so moved. Let's do this again, then. Is there an interest in looking at numbers 3 through 10? Do I have a motion to bring that to the floor? Supervisor McGowan, Supervisor McDevitt on the second. Discussions or questions, please. Supervisor Seaver.
I guess I'm a little confused. These say notice to intent to fill, but some say due to the position being created in the budget.
Yes, a few of these are newly created positions for 2023. So we're asking to fill them at the beginning of the year because we're not going to have committee in December.
What ones are newly created? Number 9,
Last
See.
number 7.
3 through.
Yeah, number 3. 4, 5.
5 says positions mandated and reimbursed. Okay, 5.
Yeah, all these positions are mandated and reimbursed, correct?
Not, but your backups, they don't state at 100%, right? They're.
No, they're,
70.
these positions are not 100%. They're what, 72,
Right.
right around 72 average, depending on which department they're in.
3, 4, 5 are new.
Yeah, 3, 4, 5 are new. 6 is also, no, 6 is due to a promotion and 7 is new and 8 is due to promotion. Number 9 is due to creation. And the last one is for retirement.
And a lot of these new positions, as I understand it, Chris, are required because in the case of caseworkers, they were handling more cases than is required by the state. Is that correct?
That's part of it, but the other piece of it is that we've taken on some additional responsibilities that we used to have handled outside of the agency. We have a preventive program that we decided to do most of the work ourselves. They were having a difficult time providing staff to do this for us, and we were paying quite a bit of money. So we looked at the financial side of it and decided that, well, we can do this actually for less and we'll do it ourselves and we'll have the staff here. And those particular caseworkers could also be on call for CPS. So it does spread out the CPS work a little bit more. So there's less of a burden on the workers. The other piece of it is that we're doing an employment and training thing in-house as well. That's gonna save us a little bit of money. So that's why we need a couple positions in our eligibility unit as well. But all of these are, when we went through the budget process, they're all very fiscally sound and reimbursed. None of these are gonna actually end up costing us much more money at all. In fact, with vacancies, I would imagine we'd save money.
Supervisor Seaver.
Vacancies, as long as they're not filled, you're saving money, but when you go to fill them. Then you've got all, I remember looking through the budget documents and committee. You can put all these together if you want, but I'm gonna vote no right now on a few of them, and then. Hopefully by the time the board meeting comes along, I can ask you some more questions, because. I don't remember this in-depth discussion prior to going into the budget. Particularly about the percentage the county is applying here.
Would you like to speak to the work that was done on that?
Okay.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, most of this was done within the budget committee where these.
I mean, at this
positions-
committee, yeah, I
Right,
wasn't privy to those discussions there, so I was told that the majority of positions that got created in the upcoming budget were actually talked about in the committees themselves. But going back and reviewing information on committees, I just didn't see that detailed discussion here. And I know time is of the essence. I mean, it doesn't matter, hopefully by the time.
we did talk about
We-
budgets here after it
Yeah.
gone through the budget. The thing with a lot of these positions is Chris did talk about, we did have a huge preventive contract with Berkshire.
Mhm.
They can't get the staff, but yet they wanted to be paid 1/12 of the contracts. We're paying a lot of money for services that cannot be provided. It was way less expensive to hire 2 preventive workers, even aside from the CPS that they could help with, than to pay Berkshire for work that they could not ongoing. I mean, if somebody has a staffing issue for, 3 months or 5 months or whatever, but it was so ongoing that they could never fulfill the contract that we currently have with them. So, there was a lot of discussion there as to how to do that, because we do like having a good working relationship with Berkshire because we're still using them in other areas. And then it was the same thing with employment and training. All we did is shift a lot of money from the employment and training piece into our own employment unit, because it's very difficult to get a lot of our clients to go down to the Travelers building. So we were finding that because they weren't utilizing it, and the staff and RTA department really, it fell on them, and it's an incredible amount of work. So, and we took a portion of what we paid employment and training to hire somebody to do the work in-house. So in those positions, it really is a wash. When you do the numbers, it really did not increase our budget a whole lot on those, if any at all. And all that was
Yeah,
submitted
and the-
at budget time.
Yeah, and
It's okay. All this is gonna do is generate additional questions for me, and I don't want to take up the time knowing that we've got Chairman Merlino waiting to go here. But
Rachel, I have a lot of backup, that doesn't
Yeah.
get submitted with the budget. If you ever want to go over some of that, because
Yeah.
there's just tons and tons of backup to justify that's brought to budget that, to sit here and go through it.
that's
it
okay.
just
No,
wouldn't
I just
happen.
want to make sure I'm making an informed vote. So
Yeah.
if you want to do them separate, that's fine, or.
the other thing that I can add with your concern about the vacancies is that when we do have a vacancy, it usually takes several weeks before we can fill it. So there are gaps there that are
Right, right,
significant. We can't, if we have a vacancy, we can't just fill it. We have to
Sure.
bring it to committee, and then we have to actually find people. So,
Right.
So it sounds like we have the possibility of approving some of the positions, but not all of them. Because we only have 4 members here to vote on this. So should we and withdraw the motion to do 3 through 10 and deal with them on a separate basis? Or can I hear which ones are questionable about or debatable, and we will address those separately and batch the others that the committee might be comfortable with?
I'm comfortable with batching them all and moving on.
What the? Sorry, guys.
Well, I don't, are you asking me? I don't know where Supervisor from Queensberry stands on it. I just, for me, the ones that I would follow up on, we voted on 2. Would be 3, 4, 5, 7, and 9. I'd be a no. Yeah.
So we've got so
I'm happy with, I mean, like, for my number, heat, you know, for, we're right in the, peak of heat. Well,
This isn't effective till
January 1st.
next.
oh, true. Well,
We don't meet until the 3rd week in January.
We need that one.
That's my.
We do need
Hey,
that.
Oh, we're so far.
Can I please speak to a couple things here? This denying these approvals is going to significantly impede services that we're going to be able to provide to the community. For one thing. Number two, I would like to say that if we cannot do this going forward, there are a couple of positions here that we really need to approve. Would you like to hear those positions?
May I respond briefly?
Sure.
Obviously, your comments are meant towards me, Commissioner, and to be honest with you, it's not a matter of denying a position on one member. This committee has supervisors that are not in attendance. You know, I have done my homework. I am trying to do more. It is a lot in front of us. I have voiced my concerns with the chairman previously. And, you know, if that's the most pressing one regarding KEEP, I'm also going to ask you the question, then why aren't we looking at a full-time? If KEEP is up as much as it is, how much of that, I need time to look at how much of that is reimbursed. If any of these are 100% reimbursed, tell me. What ones are created that are 100% reimbursed?
KEEP is 100% reimbursed.
I support number
However,
9.
we could run out of money, you know, but they give us our allocation. We're hoping that it's all covered, but if there's overtime, those kinds of things, it does eat into the allocation. So I can't guarantee that
Right.
particular position would be at 100%.
Also, we
Going
have
into it, yes.
emergency heat
Budget.
starting in January, so it's important to have this position in place January 1st.
So Chairman, that's fine. I'll support number 9, but it is my right as a supervisor and a community member on this board to choose to vote no if there's additional information or things that I haven't been privy to previously. And just because I'm the only one here voting no, it shouldn't be.
So let's look to get a,
If you. So.
I think we're looking at 6, 8, 9, and 10. Forward.
I'm comfortable with moving forward.
You need McGowan and McDevitt.
Peter?
to amend their motions.
Okay, so let's amend. Could I get
Move on.
Mr. McDevitt and Mr. McGowan to amend their motion to batch? I think it was 3 through 10, and I'd like to. Are you gentlemen comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay, so let's look to batch 6, 8, 9, and 10 together. So do I have a motion to bring 6, 8, 9, and 10 to the floor?
They agreed to amend.
Okay, so all right, okay, so so all in favor of approval of
Who did?
when you,
You said you were agreeable to the amendment.
No, I was great keeping them all together and putting them all through.
Oh.
That's what Peter, Supervisor McDevitt and I. was-
Yeah, but if we-
Conversation or talk to me.
If-
Supervisor McDevitt.
if we do that, then and we don't get the necessary votes, everything.
Well, we have 4.
No, it has to be 4, yes, a full number of committees that.
All right,
You missed the 3 members.
all right.
So-
This is
So,
complicated. I just don't want to hold up the,
I want to move, again, I want to ask a vote on request number 6, number 8, number 9, and number 10, please. I'll call the question. All in favor of approval of 6, 8, 9, and 10, say aye.
all right.
Any opposed? Okay. So now we have,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, and 7. And do I have interest in batching 3, 4, 5, and 7 together?
Which motion, which one of these has the ability to fail?
I think all 4. Yeah, all 4. They're concerned about all 4.
I've talked to Ben about it already.
No, I understand.
We'll have an opportunity for discussion. So do I have a motion to put together request number 3, 4, 5, and 7, please? Supervisor McDevitt and Supervisor McGowan on the second. Discussion or questions on 3, 4, 5, and or 7? Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reimbursements, these are all positions that are mandated and reimbursed. So for number 3, where's that percentage?
All of them are roughly 73%.
73?
Yes.
And Julie, can you talk about the impact on overtime, if anything, that vacant positions might present to existing staff?
Actually, I can. Right now, our CPS unit has a lot of overtime, and you see that every month. And I think, again, Chris alluded to the fact that the more workers we have, because those CPS, the preventive caseworkers that we've asked for will help in that unit. The more workers, less cases that they each have, which give them more time in their work hour to put everything, they have to put everything into connections, everything they do, every phone call, every contact. And it's just very time consuming. And when you have a caseload of 25, it gets crazy. So more and more of them are doing that and getting overtime for that. So if we have more caseworkers,
In the long term, we will end up having less overtime. Initially, we will have some more because we have training. We have travel times and sometimes trainings run over. Training is in Albany, I should say Rensselaer. So, you know, the long-term goal is to get all these positions filled. And move forward so that the work is spread out more evenly and there will be less overtime eventually.
and it helps with staff retention,
Yes.
because a lot of our
Work is-
cases.
Burnout is a problem as a case. And
McGowan, let me go to Mr. Leggett first, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I remember correctly, a lot of the CSEA units showed up at a board of supervisors meeting. And many of them were from DSS, and they were talking about those working conditions and having to work a lot, not take lunches and whatnot. And this is perhaps a response on creating a better work environment. Is that correct?
that's correct. Thank you for that. We definitely need to make sure that the increasing workloads are spread out more evenly and not just distributed to existing staff.
Thank you for looking at me.
Thank you.
Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think any of this needs to be a backhanded accusation of not caring about staff or not listening to employees when they came to the meeting. I've had several DSS employees reach out to me directly My concern here in front of us today is month after month, I've talked about a best practice through NISAC that we learned about with stay interviews and to take a look at why people are staying, but also why people are going. It's a continual problem to get any type of information regarding exit interviews provided directly to the Board of Supervisors. While I know we've talked about this, it is not alone to just your department, Commissioner. This happened even just earlier today with Office for Emergency Services. It's happened in many other departments where we're continuing to see these notices of intent to fill vacant positions. But this year in the budget, many of them were put in as funded or unfunded, and they were created as personnel when not necessarily have we had time. And again, today, we don't have the time to go through the rationale between several of these, but also about talking about a more lenient flex time or comp time program, particularly in CPS. Looking at what some of those match monies, ways to recover different types of revenues, and also just concerns that I have over the base salaries alone. So again, you have 3 other members in this committee, Mr. Chairman, that could be here as well. And of course, they might have conflicts. This is again another reason why we should be looking at emergency services to be able to do Zoom and electronic meetings. This board has historically voted that down. And I don't think to be told, just do this, get this over with, don't do this to the department. Call another board meeting and ask your board members to come so that they can all be here and ask the same questions that clearly wasn't provided in detail here at this committee. It is not a point the finger at one member who has additional questions, particularly given the time of the day. So I am respectfully a no on these 4 positions, and you can call another committee meeting. And you and I have spoken, Chairman, about some of my concerns in this department. And I'm happy to talk to you in further detail about these positions when you're ready.
I think we've had a lot of discussions. I think that we got a lengthy response to questions about retention and new hires. It's my understanding also that the commissioner has been invited to address good practices here in Warren County at a statewide Department of Social Services meeting. And I personally haven't seen that issue, but I'm not going to debate whether or not there are things to look at. I'm more concerned with getting the necessary staff so that the public who need and depend on these programs, that they're getting A1 services in a timely and efficient manner. That's my concern. And I don't know it's all of our concern. So I shouldn't say it's just me, but Commissioner, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I'd just like to follow up a little bit on what Supervisor Seaver was saying. At a previous committee meeting, you had requested that I provide some information about what we're doing to recruit, retain, and improve morale, professionalism. I did provide that information to this entire board. It's quite significant. None of that stuff was being done before I became commissioner. I would also like to point out that our retention rate is much better than average. We're running about 13%, whereas in other government entities, it's about 18%. The government in general is much better retention than the private sector, even still. We're doing the best we can, and compared to other counties, our staffing issues are minor. There are other counties that have 50% of their staff gone. We are able to keep staff, I think, happy. We've been trying to work with different programs, and we're doing the best we can to retain staff. It's expensive, it's time consuming, and it's not good for anyone if we are continually losing people. But we will always lose people. We're a big department. So that's just a follow-up to that.
May I just thank you?
Sure.
Thank you for those comments. I did appreciate your email. And again, want to point out that there were years when we used to have committee meetings in December. I'm a big fan of that. I've continued to advocate for that. I think it puts you guys as staff in a horrible position when you go from November committee and you don't meet again till the end of January, and then you have all the drama in between of a chair selection and committee and new members, and it's horrible for our staff. And I don't know why we keep ignoring that, but at any rate, thank you. And I will certainly follow up regarding my question.
Mr. McGowan,
Are these, 3, 4, 5, and 7, they've been budgeted for next year?
Yeah, all these are in our approved budget. We've provided the funding streams as well to financial backup to show where we're getting the money to pay for these positions.
Yeah, at the end of the day, speaking for myself, I put my faith and confidence in department heads and the people that actually run the departments. At the end of the day, I have no choice. I mean, that's kind of the way the system is set up, and we at the end of the day have got to support our department heads and the confidence that I have in giving us good advice as it comes to these positions. So it's a simple decision. And I don't know if we ought to dwell on the picayune issues of which I basically feel uncomfortable with. So.
Thank you.
anyone else? Okay, yeah, so I'll ask the question. All in favor of approval of request number 3, 4, 5, and 7, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh,
Motion fails. Have request number 11, Commissioner, if you could help us with that.
Number 11 is a request to amend our budget to increase revenues and expenditures as follows: increase by $4,167, which is a 12th of the allocation $50,000 for December of 2022, and to increase by $45,833, 11 months for 2023. Recently, LDSSs were advised via local commissioners memorandum, the availability of Federal Child Abuse Prevention Treatment Act, CAPTA, and Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act, CARA, state grants for the fiscal year of 2022 to 2023. Department of Social Services will renew the agreement with the Baywood Center in Queensbury for these services effective December 1st, 2022 through November 30th, 2023. And this is pass-through money, so these are grant funds.
Motion to bring that to the floor, Supervisor McGowan and Supervisor McDevitt on the second. Questions or comments for Chris? Supervisor Seaver.
my only comment here is, December 1 is right around the corner. Why not last month?
We just found out about this.
It just got
It
renewed,
just got renewed.
the grant.
It's existing. We keep this going. We were doing it, and now this is a new one.
I didn't do the grant with me, but the grant was dated in November.
So it wasn't set to expire. Why do you have to work?
We never know if they're gonna renew from 1 year to the next, and if they renew, how much. So we wait for what we call an ADM, which is a administrative from either OCF or OTDAP, whoever is giving us the funds. They send it out, letting us know how much the funds are, what we've been approved for, the dates that they're approved for, how we can claim it. Normally, I did print out the and I didn't.
September 29. The memo, is that what you're referring
Yeah.
to, that's dated September 29?
Okay,
I just, support it, but I think if you want to get these two committee and through county attorney a lot sooner than the week before, if it was the 29th, depending on committee schedule, but.
Got a motion on the floor. All in favor of approval of request number 11, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Request number 12, please. Chris.
It's a request to renew a memorandum of understanding between the Department of Social Services and Warren County Employment Training for temporary assistance and SNAP units to provide employment referrals for a total amount of $40,000 for the term commencing January 1st, 2023 and terminating December 31st, 2023. It's an essential interdepartmental cooperative agreement. It's a great collaboration that's been developed with employment training. Total amount is significantly less than the prior year, as the Department of Social Services is now hoping to assume increased responsibility internally with the creation of new positions, which we might not get.
Motion to bring that to the floor, please. Supervisor McDevitt. Supervisor McGowan on the second. Nothing. Supervisor Seaver.
Commissioner, to your comment that you might not get, I think we're both well aware if he calls another meeting, you'll end up with it, or if you afford me a whopping week to have a discussion about it. But that being said, you'll be going back into other committee meetings where I'm sure this will be discussed. This is one of my concerns, is just the rationale behind moving over. When you said a lot of your clients do not want to go down to the Travelers Building, we've had so many discussions on this board about the cost of the Travelers Building, both through workforce and through even our public defender's office, and easy accessibility. You yourself have been involved in discussions about space over at Human Services and where we can try to get everything so that it's all in one campus. We have, obviously spent a ton of money on the Human Services Building, and we're still paying on that. So I just, again, for purposes of hopefully moving, I guess, this forward, I'll support this because it falls onto me. It doesn't look like anybody else is worried about these types of contracts. But I do want to talk to Liza about why some of it is moving over, and if it's more than just a location issue, if it's more, what are some of those hurdles and obstacles that we should, in my opinion, this isn't micromanaging, this isn't nitpicking, this isn't worrying, not doing our job. They're not trusting our departments. This is the process, and this is what we're elected to do. And I have questions regarding this, but again, I'd appreciate the avoiding of the commentary for me trying to do my job as well. So as much as I'd like to abstain on this, I'll support it.
I will call the question on request number 12. All in favor of approval?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Everyone should have received, including non-members of the committee, the commissioner's the report, which is usually the middle of preceding month to the middle of the current month. Julia, would you like to run us quickly through the financial
In
report?
the interest of time, I just want to reiterate, I think that we're on target to stay within budget for 2022. If anybody has any questions or concerns, just contact me. But we're in good shape.
Motion to bring, no, we're all done with that. No referrals or pending items. Privilege of the floor to members first, and then anyone else who would like to speak. Okay. We have a motion to adjourn the Human Services Committee meeting. McDevitt and McGowan, thank you very much.